Hello everyone! And don't worry, the rest of the chat on with me are not live yet to everyone. It's just me who's live. So, the reason that my colleagues aren't quite live yet, but questions should be working and the bot should be working and ready. It should be, he says. Possibly it's ready. Is that I am going to be showing first off to you all this window. Now, this window is the plan for this week's Historiathon, which is coming. Now, as you all know, because of what was happening last week and the various things that have been going on, including the lecture at King's and all those things, and me wanting to make sure that went well, I kind of have been truncating normally the advertisement for this. But to me, that didn't really matter so much as most of the core people already know that I'm going to do this. And it's going to be a week-long thing, so people are going to be able to get involved. Now, as you can see, it's listed up here. There are various topics that are going to be discussed in the evenings. What those topics are going to be. Some of them are from books, which are in my 45k book listing topics. You know, the short books I'm writing for Kindle. That are hopefully the first one's going to be published soon, and if everything goes to plan and the software works as it's supposed to do, and it's all, I'm happy with it all finally, which is all going to be decided after the Historiathon. I thought I'm not going to try and rush that into this weekend with everything else going on. But you'll notice also that the first 5, the weekday ones, are all for different charities. Now, this means I'm going to be doing something slightly different. Okay? Whilst there is going to be fundraising and results and things going out for the ones where I for the, how to put it, the last part of the series, the 36-hour one, where I'm fundraising for the channel, I'm going to be doing backer awards. I'm not doing backer awards for the charity streams, and that's because I don't make enough money on advertising to be able to pay for the backer awards, which I would like to do, or which could be done, from that, and then give all the donated money to charity. So what I'd rather do is give all the money that comes from those streams, including the advertising money, to those charities. So any money raised in those streams is literally going to the charity. None of it's coming to me, and hopefully one day, if I grow the channel and large enough, and it's a big enough channel, we have enough support, we have enough things coming, I can do backer awards in the charity streams as well. But for the moment, the charity streams are basically going to be any money comes into those in the first before the first payout. So basically, not trying to work out pennies that come in 6, 8, 12 months time. Don't want to be cruel, but I just don't have the time to be able to go down and do that sort of micro examination of the money coming in when you're getting a couple of pennies from this video and that video. But anything that comes in by the payout point on those videos will be will be just donated to the charities on the day the money comes in. So that's what I'll be doing. Okay. So that will say that's my view is that's the best way to do things. That's the best and most honest way, but also the best way for the charities, because they get the money. And quickly, just so you know which charities we're doing, we've got the National Museum of the Royal Navy on Monday, Friends of HMCS Hydra on Tuesday, can't think why that one's there, Combat Stress, which is a charity I've done dinners for and various other things for in the past. They're an excellent charity which deals with a lot of people who are dealing with what is often termed the hidden injuries of war, and I've had friends who have been really benefited by their work, and as I said, I've done a lot of work for fundraising for them in the past in various organisations, so they're always going to be here. Fly Navy Heritage Trust, because, well, they need some money. And the Royal Navy and Royal Marines charity, it seemed appropriate on Friday because they basically are an umbrella group which looks after so many different charities below them, it's beyond belief. And it seemed like an easy way for me to capture quite a lot of different good people, good organisations, good people, by doing that sort of grouping. And I have tried, I have to admit, to think sensibly which things can go with which. Space Marine 2 seemed like an appropriate game to be playing when the Royal Navy and Royal Marines charity are the ones we're fundraising for. Pirates of the Burning Sea collab stream felt like the most like flying a swordfish, so that seemed appropriate for the Fly Navy Heritage Trust on Thursday. Combat Stress, well, I went with Shogun 2 because that's the most relaxed game I'm currently playing that actually has some realism in it. Friends of HM Sierra, UAD chat requested design testing, seemed quite a fun one to do. And National Museums of the Royal Navy, the game is going to be Timberborn, because, let's be honest, building museums is kind of like building structures in Timberborn. It's never ending and you can always add on more and more and more. So, that's that. And now my colleagues are here, the questions are live. And yes, we will start taking questions, and I will start pressing buttons. There we go. Right. So, everyone, how are you doing? We are joined by Runon, Dragon, and Foxo. No Dr. Dan yet. Runon, we all know that your bank account is what you're looking at. Your bank account figures is what allows you to sleep at night. That's always good fun too. How about you, Foxo? How are you doing? You enjoying yourself? Good. And how about our silent assassin? How is Dragon doing? He's being mean. That's terrible. No, that's the that's the silent annihilation, not assassin, and it's also not that silent realistically. I can understand it. Are we supposed to hear Foxo and Runon? You are supposed to be hearing Foxo and Runon. If you aren't hearing them at the moment, they are talking away. I am... not sure whether it's... yeah. It's supposed to be working. I'm hoping it's working. If one of you, one of the three guests could please start chattering away so I can check the system is working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you see, the bar is going up and down and flashing green at me, so it does sound like, it look like it's working.
Yeah.
And I can hear, I can hear a Foxo.
Let me tell you, I cannot figure out if working in a turbine hall is the most understimulating experience in existence or the most overstimulating experience in existence for somebody who is neurodivergent. Because on the one hand, you have this all-encompassing oppressive noise of the turbines and pumps going, but it's a very even and steady noise.
Which is slowly grinding away your ability to hear. your own thoughts,
That's why I wear earplugs.
which get stuck in your ears and cause an earwax buildup.
That's why I clean my ears.
Hmm.
Unlike some people in this chat, I am actually capable of performing basic human meat mech maintenance. Answers on a postcard
Capable
is
of
who
it.
I'm referring to.
I just can't be bothered half the time.
Never mind, the subject has identified themselves sua sponte.
Do not take me being lazy as me being incapable.
Look,
Being lazy is actually admirable.
actually, I'll bring this in because we're getting this discussion, and I'll bring this up because this is what happened to me in the last 24 hours, and explains why some streams didn't happen yesterday. Now, traditionally on my Tinder profile, it has a little paragraph at the bottom which says, basically, I love my family, they're wonderful. My dogs are my favourites, they never cause me random DIY projects. I now have to delete that paragraph. It is no longer accurate. Because one of my dogs was so excited to see me home yesterday that he smashed his way through the gate to get to me. Now, I'm going to leave it to chat. How many of you think it was the poodle, and how many of you think it was the corgi, which managed to smash its way through a wooden gate? This is a gate, a full normal garden gate in the UK, multiple planks of wood up, cross beams across, locked. He managed to smash his way through it. Which one do you think it was? The corgi or the poodle?
The poodle.
Corgi. Poodle just jump over the gate.
Theoretically speaking, Fox is probably right. In terms of mass, the poodle probably is better at it, but
In terms
This
of
call-
sheer stubborn determination.
yeah.
Yes, but realistically, unless it's a really shoddily built gate, the corgi should just bounce off.
Unless the corgis had a good run up.
Even then, it's a math question.
There is a debate as to whether or not the corgi had been working on it for a few days beforehand. All we know is that a whole plank of wood, one whole plank, was managed to be wrenched off the gate, pushed through, so that it's now out, and the corgi managed to get through to come say hello to his papa when his papa got back.
Yeah.
And literally, I had closed the front gate onto the road, and was in the van, had the door open, and suddenly I heard this almighty crack. And then a little orange and white thing comes barreling through and jumps up into the car and goes, "Hello, Papa." And I'm sort of going, okay, I've got a Hulk corgi.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. Basically, Corky went, yeah, I'm here. Now. But yeah, so I ended up having to fix that last night, fix the gate. Which is really strange, because that particular gate is actually going. It's going to be replaced by a garage at some point, but, it's not gone yet. Not so much a draw, but as he basically pushed it open and up, and he went underneath it, so he made a flip door.
I have decided that I need to remember what I was going to talk about for more than 30 seconds. Okay, great, fantastic. All right.
Careful, don't hurt yourself by thinking.
Okay. So, YouTube Minecraft Watcher. What if during the Washington Naval Treaty a third cruiser class was listed? It'd be restricted to 7,000 tons, the caliber would be between 5.1 inch and 5.9 inch, and the total amount of torpedo launchers restricted to 10 tubes total. Recon cruiser. Okay, so in the Washington Naval Treaty, they only have a limit of airships 10,000 tons and below. They don't have definitions for cruisers, etc. So for it to get to a third cruiser class, we'd have to go up to the London Naval Treaty. Okay? So I'm going to count that up to the London Naval Treaty because it doesn't work in the Washington Naval Treaty. Be basically saying we're dividing it up with cruisers from the get-go, and they didn't do that. That's why all the cruisers in the Washington Naval Treaty come out as 10,000 tons and 8-inch guns. Because literally, that's the maximum you can build, so everyone builds the maximum. It's kind of like when people have speed limits and they go, it's 70 miles an hour, and everyone going, yeah, I know, I'm driving at 70. Or,
Well,
if they're sensible, driving at 68.
well,
You do know your speedometer lies to you.
yes, yes it does, and B, most people on 70 don't drive 70. They drive 80.
You people pay attention to speed limits?
Look, in Cornwall, they do drive at the regular speed limit. That's because, unfortunately, on the A30, which is the only road where you can realistically get up to 70, there's like a police car every half a mile or so. It seems with one of the little speed things out, speed guns.
So what you're saying is that the UK is a dystopian police state where you can't do what you want to.
No,
Yeah.
to be fair, the policemen are, while sitting there, are literally have one hand on the gun and the other hand are munching down on a pasty. I know because I saw 3 of them doing this today. So, I don't know if they're really doing any work at all. They just look like they're doing work during their lunch hour, I'm presuming.
Do you think the policemen keep a leaderboard of the highest speeds recorded in a given day?
Almost certainly.
Yes.
Like, even if it's only internally.
But anyway, back to the question. So if you have 3 cruiser classes, you have one which is basically you can have a less than 6-inch gun, but it's going to be more than, in nicest way, it's going to be between 5 and 6-inch guns, and 7,000 ton and 10 and restricted to 10 torpedo tubes for some reason, and classified as a recon cruiser. You're going to have a tonnage allowance for that, which is going to be interesting. What is that tonnage allowance going to be? If you equate it in with the others and you start classifying ships, it gets kind of interesting what could fit in there. But also, you basically have put in a cruiser class instead of destroyer leaders. I don't think you get destroyer leaders as well. So I don't think you get tribal class things, but I think you get a lot of Arafusa-like things and Dido-like things. Because they're the smaller end of the light cruiser, and you basically mean that the larger cruisers are going to be fixed into the 10,000 ton region. You also might have a scenario, and I can see this, if you have one at 7,000, you could end up with them going, right then, 7,000 tons is scout cruiser, 10,000 tons is light cruiser, 13,000 tons is a heavy cruiser. And that really does make things interesting, because everyone start thinking about their favourite late 1920s, early 1930s cruiser design, and imagine it with 30% more tonnage to play with. Is that making you happy?
No, but wouldn't you just get a separate class for battle cruisers instead?
No, because you can never get a battle cruiser into 13,000 tons. But this is basically a scenario where if you're making 3 classes of cruisers, the only way you're getting realistically 3 classes of cruisers at 7,000 ton, with one at the lowest at 7,000 tons, is if you gratiate it up. And it might even be a case that it's going to sound strange, the heavy cruiser is 14,000 tons. The light cruiser is 10,500 tons, and the recon cruiser is 7,000 tons. And you might even find that they go up to 30. If they did go up to the 14,000 tons, I could see them going, okay, and you're allowed up to 9.2-inch guns for the heavy cruisers, and you get a true heavy cruiser option coming through. And there's a load of people there at point with 8-inch cruisers, which have the armour of light cruisers, and the firepower which sticks them in heavy cruisers, and are just crying at that point. But it's a way a load of people could. I could see politicians doing it, but purely from the point of view of making themselves mucking themselves up. And you probably get a scenario like they go, well, Britain needs 70 cruisers, so the allowance that everyone will have is, I don't know, 25, 25, 25 of each, or 15, 30, and 35, 15, 30, and 30 for the tonnage limitations. So you have allowed 30 recon cruisers, 30 light cruisers, and 15 heavy cruisers.
Got a couple of questions with this then, because it just makes me curious. One, do you think we'll see people cheat with this? Because if they're allowed up to 5.9-inch guns, that's awfully close to 6-inch.
Oh yeah.
So I can imagine people making just slightly larger than average barbettes for them.
Oh,
Potentially, and just late, as soon as treaties fall apart, yes, this is now a 6-inch gun cruiser.
to be fair, let's be honest, 5.9 inch is close enough to 6 inch. You could lie shamelessly and claim that the barrel is 5.9 inch. Unless people get really close and start measuring it, how are they going to know? How are they going to know?
Yeah. The other one was, does Japan bother with these recon cruisers, or do they just still stick to their full heavy cruiser, do you think?
Well, the thing is, it actually could cause some trouble, because if the heavy cruisers are now limited to 9.2 inch guns, then there's going to be a whole generation of heavy cruisers, because suddenly it becomes worthwhile for people like Britain and America to build those guns. And let's say they put it up to, let's say they go actually, recon cruisers are allowed up to 6-inch guns, light cruisers are allowed up to 8-inch guns, and heavy cruisers are allowed up to 10-inch guns, right? Let's say they make it like that. Suddenly, you have an issue, because your 8-inch cruiser, light cruiser force, which you now have, you're going to have to build heavy cruisers to combat the deal with the larger cruisers. Because whilst the British will probably come in with 9.2-inch guns and go, no, we're not going to go for 10-inch, we know how bad it is. How long till the Americans launch a 10-inch cruiser?
I can't imagine it's that long.
No. Because on paper it's going to look great. Everyone else is going to know it's actually nightmare. Well, that's the thing. Congress is really weird. As I try to explain in a lot of videos, Congress will fund capital assets. They will fund status assets. They don't want to fund presence assets or fleet assets. So if it's something which makes America look great on a national stage, i.e. something that's going to get some headlines, they'll pay for it. If it's something which is actually needed for the fleet to do work but isn't going to get much attention, they ignore it. And I'm sorry, but that pretty much goes for quite a lot of democracies, even today. Just look at the number of fleets in this world which are in the modern and sort of the Western world, which are hilariously top-heavy in their force structures. And that's the reality you'd be dealing with. Anyone else want some more suggestions? Okay. Next question then. 9681. And India against all odds, old history. The British have Singaporean and Qatari designed ships. How plausible in a non-declined empire is that? If that's where the naval architects are based, they'll have them. It's that simple, realistically. Let's be honest, in World War II, they were working with a lot of Australian design ships. Rune von Bismarck. What natural disaster changed history to the greatest extent? Okay. Which natural disaster? Come on, panel. Which one do you think changed history to the greatest extent?
It's a lot of disasters.
Okay. It's gonna sound a bit Byzantine file. But the Gallipolian Is that how you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Earthquake 1354.
Okay.
Which basically destroys half the walls of the fortress of Gallipoli, which allows the Ottoman Turks to cross the Bosphorus Strait and gain a foothold in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
which would facilitate their destruction of the Eastern Roman Empire and bring about the Renaissance in Europe. Which causes a lot of shockwaves, including the New World.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Mm.
I couldn't really give you one that jumps to my more than that. That you've mentioned it, to be honest. It's just the problem is there are that many natural disasters throughout history that have changed things to a large degree. It's hard to really narrow down, I want to say.
I would say, there's a couple of potential interesting ones. One of the ones which potentially had the biggest impact, and when I say biggest impact, I mean biggest as in long-term impact, is I'm tempted to say the 1887 Yellow River flood, because that caused so much economic issues, and as well as a pandemic and other things afterwards, that its estimated death toll is in the millions. But realistically, that puts China in a very bad position for the start of the 20th century, and a lot of the issues China experiences come from trying to deal with that and manage that, and so because they've been starting to build themselves up, they've been starting to modernize, they've been starting to push along the lines which were very similar to what Japan was pursuing, and that really stops them being able to. And it does also really restrict them in terms of the people they have available, because they lose some of the most able potential administrators and some of the most honest potential administrators in the flood and in the stuff that comes after it. What do you think?
Definitely would have quite an impact on everything.
Yeah.
Plagues count as national disasters.
Say so.
Because I've got another candidate that goes further back, if you're willing to hear it.
Go on.
The Plague of Justinian.
Mm-hmm.
That decimated the Byzantine and Sassanid empires, killed about 2/3 of the population, and facilitated the rise of Islam.
Yep.
Like, if those empires had actually not had most of their population die, the world, you wouldn't have got the last Islamic empires, which is a change.
Well, I guess bouncing off that then, honestly, the Black Death. Basically making Europe drop to 1/3 of its previous population. Which then leads to vast changes in how future plagues and disasters are handled. Is pretty large for Europe, at least.
Yeah. It was an interesting time, definitely. Joel Fredericks, with the People's Liberation Army in the middle of their third major naval expansion, when will the People's PRC, the People's Republic of China, switch from build up to maintain, i.e., when they stop building such vast numbers of ships yearly? Probably when they start reaching a point at which their ships have a longer shelf life. And let me explain that before people start bashing in on me. China's put a lot of money in infrastructure into construction of ships. They are starting now to put money into maintenance of ships and to the maintenance facilities, but those facilities have taken a backseat to building up the production facilities, okay? Perfectly understandable, considering what they've been doing. But that means there are ships which have been around for about the last 20-ish, 30, 20, 40 years, tend to not have a long-term useful shelf life, as they haven't always had the best of maintenance, or rather, they haven't always have had access to the very limited number of good maintenance facilities, and usually the higher profile assets get first dibs on them. So that's the problem. Couple that with, I would say, Chinese construction hasn't always placed enough emphasis in terms of the long-term maintainability and sustainability of a vessel. In that there is a very different philosophy which comes when you're building a ship expecting it to have a 40 to 50 year service life than when you just want to build a ship as quickly as possible to be as powerful as possible. You almost have to accept things like, well, maybe actually we don't have an extra line of VLS tubes, so we can have an extra access position and, a point of maneuver inside the hull, so we can access it and maintain it. All these things, they build up. So whilst China has been learning, and please do not know, and do not take it as all their designs have suffered from the same thing. Some of their designs have been evolving over time. Designs have been improving. But I think you will see them still doing a large build-up until they reach a point at which they've got enough infrastructure for the maintenance, and they've got enough vessels which can be readily maintained in service to maintain the numbers at a more reduced rate of production. That makes sense, doesn't it? Or was that me sounding too academic-y?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, good.
Basically, to paraphrase you back, there's considerations you take into account when building a ship to stick around than you do if you're making it for pure combat power.
Yeah. And there's also the things of the infrastructure you've got as well. And China had to make decisions about where its money to go. Even China, this is the thing I get into fights with people, because these countries don't have infinite money. They don't have an infinite money tree. They only have so much they can spend, and if you're wanting to grow your fleet, you spend your money on the infrastructure, which allows you to rapidly grow the fleet. And where's one of the areas you're going to save money? Well, you've got a relatively new fleet. It's like when you've got a brand new car. How much maintenance does that cost? You save money on the maintenance. Future Micro-Ultra. What if suddenly on December 7th of this year, all ships in Pearl Harbor before the attacks appear in the harbor today?
We did kind of answer this one at some point. It's cool. It's going to cause a very large atomic explosion.
Nope,
Nope,
they haven't. I know exactly what this one was.
They said they will appear in harbor, but not where they are existing ships, mass, etc.
That's where the reason why Runon thinks he's done this one before is because it was asked to me, Foxo and Runon, after something to see what about the question. The reason why you remembered so much there, Runon, is because you mentioned, well, if they appear at the same spot, the atomic forces will cause unprecedented nuclear annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly a thermonuclear war.
Which is why you think we've answered this.
Yep. And I would add, in this case, the biggest issue you have is going to be the race between Ryan Szymanski and Drakenfell as to who gets there first to go over all these ships.
We'll have the interesting result, I think we mentioned previously, that all of a sudden now there is 2 Arizonas.
Yes.
There is the sunk Arizona and now afloat Arizona.
It's going to be interesting. There are going to be a lot of new museum ships.
Yeah, think of that museum. You've got of having the Arizona Memorial Site and then what Arizona looked like before she detonated. That would be very impressive museum.
Jonathan Moon, Ryan doesn't have to cross the Atlantic, no, but he has work he has to get cover for, and also he doesn't necessarily have the same sitting there ready to go money that Drac will probably have, because knowing my friend and knowing how it functions, he always has an emergency fund, and that would qualify as an emergency.
And before the United States Congress authorizes the scrapping of all of those ships in 3, 2, 1.
Good luck getting that through Congress before Drax got there.
Congress can move surprisingly quickly when it wants to, and usually it only does that when it wants to do something stupid.
You probably see all the smaller ships scrapped, but I do think you might see quite a protest thing about scrapping the battleships.
No. You'll be able to tell if they're going to scrap them, because a bunch of congressmen would buy shares in scrapyards first.
Yeah, that's going to take them time.
That's your death bell. So that's where you get your time from.
Right. Castaner, how much mechanical advantage would a free master have for the rudder? Mechanical advantage would a free master have for the rudder?
You don't want 3 masts on a river, really.
I don't understand the question.
I think
No, that wasn't a river.
it's a free master free master sailing ship. How much mechanical advantage does it give for the rudder? It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about an Aegis sail free-masted ship at a line, it's still quite useful, but that's a relatively compact hull compared to, let's say, a free-masted clipper, which is quite a long and slim hull. Or there are various options for what that free-masted ship might be in terms of its size and shape, which is going to affect its rudder's performance as much as having the masts. But the thing is, you can use the masts in such a way, if you've got them angled correctly and you've got them, if you're getting the sails taut correctly, to give a mechanical advantage to your rudder to enable you to have, at least I think I'm translating mechanical advantage correctly on this one, providing enough force to maximise its turning potential and control. But it does require more information necessarily that Castanea than you have given there for me to give a more than a generic answer.
I would like to point out that the hospital that I had to go to the ER to a year ago for an ulcer on my eye. Fun fact: you can get ulcers on your eye, on your cornea.
That's not a fun fact.
Is schizophrenic because I have just received 2 bills from them over a year and a half later, one of which says $877 is due but pay $0, and the other one which says $877 is due but pay $877.
Nice.
God bless America.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Nice to hear everyone.
And delay.
How accurate is it to think that the only ones who really want uncrewed undersea vessels and uncrewed surface vessels to replace crewed ships are politicians because they don't have to spend as much on defence? That makes you presume that they wouldn't have to spend as much on defence if they got uncrewed assets.
Yeah, these systems are going to be hideously expensive to develop to an acceptable degree of reliability. And
then you've got to have the people watching them from ashore, and you've got to have the maintenance teams, and you've got to have the ability to get the maintenance teams out to the ships. And so that means you have to have a mothership anyway in the area, because otherwise you'd have to have people deploying from home and basing from hopefully Allied territory to fly out to an uncrewed asset in the middle of a very dangerous war zone, dangerous theatre, maybe a war zone, maybe an area of high conflict or high interest of conflict or potential conflict, and that just sounds like a good way to get yourself into trouble. And
Um,
It moves the people you're paying, usually a large number of people, from one part of the sector to the other part to another sector. Doesn't necessarily reduce the number of people you're playing. This is one of the things we get into with defense spending a bit sometimes.
also, too, I'm going to point out that it is far easier to send even Senior Master Chief Stuffy to a active conflict zone than it is to send what's a good phrase? Senior contract technician Stuffy to a conflict zone. Often
yes.
by many orders of magnitude.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Combat pay has nothing on hazard pay.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. More sure. Are there any countries that should be opening new major overseas bases, and if so, where? At the moment, most countries need to just be working on the overseas bases they have and making sure they're well looked after and maintained, and preferably that they're not giving them up to people they shouldn't be.
Are you telling me that you actually expect countries to look out for their long-term interests?
Yeah, it'd be sensible if they decided investing in infrastructure occasionally. Howard Gudgeon, if nuclear weapons had not been invented, how would the Royal Navy have been in the end of the Cold War if finance had not been any problem? Both finance not a problem and nuclear weapons not invented? If finance is not any problem, if they're constantly money in Britain never runs short of money, then they probably keep building the Navy as they did historically to keep people employed. Because it becomes an ongoing thing of we build these ships to keep people employed. So the Royal Navy probably stays pretty darn big. I doubt it'll be the biggest in the world, but it still be pretty darn big.
Yeah, but doesn't the itch... Oh, no.
From my understanding, the whole issue with the Royal Navy post-war, and especially post-Cold War, is we don't want to spend the money. We are going to use the fact that we have a nuclear umbrella as an excuse to cut spending on all non-atomic defense. So if you say, yes, the checks, the money is there.
No, they don't want to spend the money because they want to spend the money on other things. But if finance is not a problem, if the government has found an infinite money tree and has enough money to do it, then let's be honest, making cuts of any kind in anything is going to be unpopular. So if you have infinite money, you don't have to worry about it. What do you not do, ever?
But what I'm saying is, the question about do we have strategic nuclear weapons or not is kind of irrelevant in light of we have money freely available.
Yeah, the only thing it means you don't have the SSBNs as a part of the cornerstone of the force, realistically. You have carriers probably still there, but basically, if you have infinite money, and government MP ministers never have to make the difficult decision to cut anything because they just have an infinite money tree to go to and go, we'd like some more money, please. Then they're never going to cut anything because cuts are always unpopular.
Wouldn't a Cold War about nuclear weapons have gone hot at several points?
Potentially, but there again, if you've got Britain has an infinite money tree and has such a large armed forces, as well as America, and there's a whole lot of more conventional deterrent capability, then that might stop the nukes, stop it going hot, because you have a lot more assertive deterrent, if you know what makes sense.
My understanding is that the nukes were a difficult force multiplier, especially in the early Cold War.
They were.
The Soviet conventional advantage. If you don't have the nukes, the Soviets don't really have a reason to not roll over.
The reason you had the Soviets having conventional advantage is because everyone else wanted to save money because they didn't want to spend the money on the large land forces and maintain them peacetime, whereas the Soviets didn't care about that. But if you now have an infinite money tree, so Britain has a large land force it wants and doesn't really care, because it has an infinite money tree, which is where Knight's already gone wrong, because basically the whole point is you don't get cuts in the Air Force or the Army, because if you have the money coming in, again, politicians basically, more often than not, care most about being popular. And popular, you're able to make popular by spending money. If you're cutting spending, whilst it's going to be popular with some people, it's going to be unpopular with others. Whereas if you're just spending, then everyone feels like their area is getting the funding they need, and everyone's happy. And therefore, you as a politician are popular. Because you've bought their affection. Joel Fredericks, were there ever any plans for what happens to a sub's crew post-nuclear war? Realistically, they were to try and find some sort of safe haven. The British subs would first check out the UK, and if that seemed to be an irradiated mess, they were supposed to head basically to America, Canada, Australia, Falkland Islands, those sort of places, to try and find some place they can that can hold themselves up, basically. And I think various nations have various plans for that. And quite a lot of nations include the idea of sending their submarines to Australia. I'm not sure if the Aussies knew that there were so many submarines headed their way, but there were certainly a lot of submarine nations which had the idea of their submarines going to Australia.
Under the ocean, under the world, pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah. Dr. Dan isn't here yet, so we will I will do this for this one, so we can go back to it. If and when Dr. Dan arrives, we will return to it. Carrot 1151, have you ever heard of the book on North Coast's strike wing to force the enemy off the sea? I picked up today. The International Bomber Command Center. Seems to have a lot of photos, maps. There are all sorts of interesting organisations put together, so I haven't heard of that book, but it sounds like it probably would exist, because that force probably existed at several points. Falkland seemed pretty unlikely to get nuked. There was a worry that they might try and nuke Port Stanley, but then it was real. Then, as I've said before, there were various ways to work out it wasn't likely to be nuked. And a nuclear submarine turning up there would be fairly good security for the island. YouTube Minecraft Watcher. What if during the Washington Naval Treaty there was a separate allotment of submarine tonnage for mine-laying submarines and cruiser submarines? 3 separate tonnage amounts. Okay. That's an interesting one. Just checking something, because I think we might have to move this again. Yeah, there was no agreement to restrict submarines in the Washington Naval Treaty. So yeah, it would only that's only possible during the London Naval Treaty. And that's basically a question which I did a video on. Because basically that's what I did for the video question. So I'll leave it to the rest of the panel to answer and see any offer ideas for the London Naval Treaty. What if during the London Naval Treaty there was a separate allotment of submarine tonnage for mine-laying submarines and cruiser submarines? 3 separate tonnage amounts. So regular submarines, mine-laying submarines and cruiser submarines, each getting their own tonnage amount. I am off to get some more iron brew. And I have to remember that these headphones are wired.
Oh. I feel me and Foxton might disagree a bit here. I actually do see them building a branch. I say for the Royal Navy, they would build a branch of cruiser submarines, so probably everyone builds some cruiser submarines of various types. What they'll be, I'm not entirely sure, because X1's prime example. Also, X1 now isn't scrapped.
Right, so it's cruiser subs and mine layers.
Cruiser subs,
Mine-laying.
submarines, and mine-laying subs. Now all are 3 different categories with different tonnage allowances.
So you're going to see quite a lot of mining subs.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the Royal Navy, because they're just proven to be the most dangerous part of submarine warfare currently.
Yeah.
The issue with cruiser subs is you
Never
might
really
see a
did.
couple, but unless he's got cover for something, I think people are going to realise they're a dead end.
This is why I said me and you probably disagree. While I agree they are a bit of a dead end, I do see people actually investing in them to a reasonable standard. There won't be stuff.
Yeah.
There won't be. You won't be getting like the 18 to 30 ships of a class type deal, but you might be getting like 1 or 2 cruiser submarines every year or two, sort of thing.
The only way I really see
I-
that is
My strong suspicion is that cruiser submarines become a version of mine-laying submarines. So every time you build a batch of mine-laying subs, you build, let's say, one of the subs which has maybe some quick-firing, rapid 6-inch guns or something on it in the Royal Navy service, and also carries the mines as well. Carries the slightly reduced complement mines as well. Because basically, then that sort of adds into that kind of force, because that becomes something which can add to a mine-laying force, the possibility of it also doing a bit of a shore bombardment or a bit of a
Yeah.
surface strike if it wants to.
Honestly,
But primarily it's a mine layer, extra mine layer.
Just going off the raw names because those are the ones I have most ideas about. I think I agree with you because you might see them instead of being cruiser submarines, they're more just large submarines. Yes, they're cruiser submarines by thing, but they can be a standard submarine, they can be a mine-laying submarine. They're sort of more multi-purpose, just a larger hull.
Yeah.
When the time comes for it, if they think the 6-inch guns are no longer needed, well, you just take them off. Potentially, and save a bit of tonnage there.
But I could also see them becoming covers for not for the large submarines that you see in the Pacific style, large torpedo-based submarines. Like, yeah, this is totally a cruiser submarine.
Well, the reason why I'm a little bit hesitant to think of that one is because the T-class exists.
Yeah.
And if you want a large torpedo submarine, they kind of
But
already exist, and they're
you're
not
telling
even
me the Royal
large.
Navy wouldn't strap them guns to the T-class to get more T-class?
I could definitely see where you're coming from. The thing is, I'm not sure I want to know what they do with that. No, don't worry. Instead of having 4 external torpedo tubes, no, don't worry. Since we've increased the size to fit these guns on, we now have 10 internal frontal torpedo tubes that can all be reloaded. Everyone else looking over in horror of, you're doing what now? Sorry.
It's
Oh,
a
they have
cruiser submarine.
reloads.
It's a cruiser submarine.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Which is why I said it'll probably be a cover for something else, like
I could definitely see them trying it.
T-class.
Actually, what is the difference in tonnage between these two? Okay, yeah. So, just quickly looking at a T-class is what's called 1,290 tons, long tons, 1,310 normal tons surfaced. An X1 is 2,820 tons. Yikes.
Yeah, you could have fun with that.
Yes, I agree, Steve, that the US and the IGN don't really consider the T-class a large submarine, but they're not exactly small submarines either, considering the ships that are before and after them. The U-class, which comes after, are 550 tons standard. And I guess the Grampus are the only ones that is also large, but that's because they're dedicated mine-laying subs at 1,800. Before that, you start going back down.
Yeah.
I feel like pointing out to Joel Frederick's statement that I feel like the bestseller fiction book for a naval battle between post-nuclear war navies struggling to maintain their decaying hulls and dying crews, that just sounds like Battlestar Galactica with 1960s tech.
I thought that was the last ship.
That's a plague. So kind of
Okay.
the same, but also different.
Yeah. In that
We
one,
get to see Jane
that always confused me because an only Burke is the vessel which survives, whereas I thought any plague would be more likely to be the submarines because they've probably they could have gone to sea months before the plague came out and might not come back until months afterwards. If you consider some of the Royal Marine patrols are doing 9 months on patrol, you think about COVID and when that was really at its peak. There were several submarines which went out before it hit and became massive, and by the time they came back, it was... We're mostly dealing with this.
I'm sorry, wasn't the ship in the last ship a Perry, not a Burke?
No, it's a Burke. Fairly sure it's a Burke.
It looks like it's a book that's been turned into a TV series. So
The TV series is a Burke, definitely. I'm not sure about the book.
Also, in the TV series, we get to see Jane Cobb as a XO, which, no, it is a Burke. Okay. Why did I think it was a Perry?
Because in any sensible world, it probably would have been a Perry to survive longer and keep going, because the Perry was the more simple system, whereas the Burke has all the fancy doodads, but that can go wrong. But yeah.
So what you're saying is that you have poisoned me into retroactively editing history to be more sensible.
Yes.
Okay.
Harrier survived better.
Yeah, but
With machine drops.
Yes, but the trouble is people fly on or fly off carriers quite often, so goodness knows how long you can that's going to be kept off from having issues in a plague scenario. Alright. YouTube Minecraft Watcher, what if during the... We've answered that one. Rune von Bismarck, then. Is there another piece of land that could theoretically support as big a population as the Yellow River Delta and its nearby regions?
When?
How much money are you willing to put into civilian infrastructure?
When is what went through my mind. I can hear someone knocking on my door, so I'm going to leave this to my civilian infrastructure specialist for a second while I go answer the door.
So, provided it's some degree mechanized, and to stop wars coming through every couple of years, the Ukraine / southern Russian steppe / heading up towards Poland is some of the best farmland on the planet. It just suffers from a minor case of being in the center of Eurofighters.
I would put forward the American Midwest and the Chesapeake Bay Basin, particularly the Chesapeake Bay Basin, because you have a protected fishery. And you have decent access to fresh water, good growing land, but with both of those, they need to be appropriately managed.
Yeah. And did the question say just agricultural?
Is there another piece of land that could theoretically support as big of a population as the Yellow River Delta and its nearby regions?
Okay, so we're not including places that do that with fishing.
Yeah, I mean,
especially before they were massively overfished in the 19th century, and you actually did modern marine conservation. The Grand Bank fisheries were producing enough food to feed the entirety of Canada and America.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
Massively utilized.
So, just to clarify on why I went, I heard a strange noise and a help. I went out. For the fourth time in 4 weeks, my sister was buried in these boxes in the utility room, where she's been reorganising the boxes again. So, I do apologise for that, but I've learnt to be attuned to hearing for the plaintiff help. Because boxes keep falling on her.
And also, too, part of the problem is, okay, so the Yellow River Delta cannot sustain the amount of population it is sustaining just because it's the Yellow River Delta.
Mm-hmm.
It can sustain that level of population because it has had several millennia of investment in it, of infrastructure investment, in order to
Maximise agricultural productivity and living space.
Yeah, to sustain the population that it sustains. So this question is very much a chicken or the egg question. And honestly, the list of places which couldn't sustain that level of population
is far greater.
With the same level of investment might actually be might be more area in square kilometers, but slightly shorter in names.
Well, the Amazon is a good example of a place which was massively cultivated. And our study of its former cities and populations suggest it was an absolutely colossal population at certain points in its history. But the thing is, it also shows how rapidly you can lose such infrastructure and population.
Look at the Indus River. Southern parts of the Indus used to be out the Yellow River when it came to output. Then the river changed course and destroyed it all. And it never recovered.
Yeah. And to those people asking questions about my sister while I was away, no, my sister is incredibly intelligent. It's just we keep clearing the boxes out, and then she puts more boxes in there to sort out, and then she tries to clear them out solo. And it's the classic thing of trying to do 4 jobs at the same time, and you sit there and go, no, you need to just do 1. And I know because I do this myself. We all do this. We've got a big list of tasks to do, and we end up trying to do multiple jobs at the same time. Because we think it's going to be efficient, and it isn't. Things go wrong. And in my sister's case, the thing that keeps going wrong is the boxes she's trying to move and trying to maneuver around to the higher ones, she keeps knocking them with the ones she's moving around. She keeps knocking the higher ones, and they keep falling on her. Because of the way the room's currently set up with its shelving, which I am going to be taking down and replacing. However, I can only take the shelving down and replace it when it's no longer being used for storage. It's a chicken or egg scenario, with me going, well, we want to make the shelving better for storage, but I can't do that until I can get all the stuff down which we're using for storage, and I can't do that until I've got another place to move that stuff to. Which is why I have bought like 40 odd boards for the attic. That's what I'm going to be doing every morning when I'm not doing the Historiathon this week. I'm going to be boarding the attic. So that's going to be my daytime shift. It's going to be either sitting, chatting with all of you, or boarding the attic. Not sure. Watch the Gorshkov video. I think Fisher would have had a wonderful time as an Inspector General. And driven I was mad. Who historically would have been good for that? There are some people who would have been absolutely cruel. I think Jellicoe would have been a good Inspector General. I also, and this is going to sound a bit strange, but bear with me. Listen to me out here. I think Halsey could have been a very good Inspector General. Because if properly motivated, he's not going to take any notice of anyone telling him, but for political reasons, you shouldn't be doing this. He's going to care not one jot about anyone's opinion. How about any of you? Who do you think would be a good Inspector General?
No idea.
Based on the Gorshka video, basically someone who wanders around and is looking at the current armed forces and is assessing whether it's actually working or not. It's supposed to be an honorary post where they just sort of retire to, and instead he actually decided to do work while doing it and actually use it as it was officially supposed to be, where you're supposed to be going out and inspecting the forces and making sure they're at standards and up to proper duty.
One name jumps to mind very quickly. Jellicoe.
Which name, Dragon?
Henderson.
Jellicoe. If you put Jellicoe in charge of that, he could get very angry. A lot of stuff is just not done right.
John Jellicoe. Oh, King.
I'm going to keep putting forward
Admiral
Henderson.
Jellicoe. Yeah. Henderson would also.
Anderson would have fun, but Oliver Cromwell, yes, but Rickover and Admiral King. Imagine those two turning up together as joint on the Inspector General panel. You've got Admirals King and Rickover arriving.
I'm just going to say, we kind of know how Rickover would do as Inspector General, because you just have to look at his track record with the nuclearization of the U.S. Navy. Actually, somebody at the facility that I'm working with now, or not working with, working at now, has been on SSNs and SSBNs throughout their career, which I found to be, which caused me to do a double take, because I'm like, surely there's more time between those three types of subs, and it's like, nope, that all happened in one person's career.
It gets scary sometimes. But it would be quite fun. It would be quite fun watching them turn up. Lots of people thought of Nimitz. Nimitz would be quite cool, yes. Oh, the worst Inspector General is someone like Beatty, who just doesn't really look at the details. For Inspector General, you need someone who is very, very detail orientated and completely. It doesn't give a flying hoot about politics under any circumstances.
So the anti-BT.
Willis Lee, yes, he did do something similar under the King's instruction. And Rozalensky. Oh, Rozalensky would be fun. Although, the thing is, if he's Inspector General rather than at Sea Command, does he chuck binoculars or does he chuck something else? What does he chuck as an Inspector General? Is it Inspector Battens?
He probably chucks the nearest thing to hand.
Admiral Duncan could be both very good and very problematic. Because he'd be very good on ships which he knew the crews of, and he knew them exactly. Crews people he was on who didn't know him by reputation, etc., could be in for the greatest shock of their lives when he walks aboard. Clipboards, yes. Basically, Rosenzi's staff would just be following him with an endless supply of clipboards, going. Rosenzi going, oh, just fed up with the tune. New one. Thank you. And the staff just racing back going, we've run out! We're down to the last two! Anyone got another clipboard? Save us!
I don't think he would be throwing the clipboards. I think he would be breaking them over the heads of the incompetents.
Either the heads of incompetence or his own knee in frustration. Potentially some very interesting things would happen with clipboards.
As long as they don't go TF2 sniper route. That's all. At least we should be able... If they go that way, oh dear.
Listen, he's just giving them some jaw rate. What are you complaining?
You can blame Foxo for giving me that mental image. She's being a little gremlin, as usual.
Okay. Mark,
look, it's good. We all need some gremlin energy in our lives.
Mark Harkness is essentially suggesting that Rotisvensky would beat a mother frigate with a mother frigate. And
Could be fun.
I'm not saying that Rossovensky couldn't or wouldn't do that. I'm just saying you might be overestimating the amount of room inside ships.
Oh, honestly, Raptor, if you bite a clipboard properly, you can get range and accuracy like a frisbee. Okay, the thing is, Rosensky has such a mathematical brain, he might actually work that out. Rosensky is so good at maths, he might actually do that. You just about he'd be angling it for maximum range of velocity. It wouldn't be like binoculars, which you chuck and they're weighted objects. They're not going to have any aerodynamics. No, he can actually hit things accurately with a clipboard at range. Just
Frank
imagine
Farmwell, I
the
actually
poor.
want my Navy to work, and MacArthur does not have a good track record with getting armed forces to work.
No. But just imagine someone some sort of engineering officer running along the dockyard as Rosensky comes to the wing of the bridge wing of the ship he was just inspecting. Just sort of calmly is just doing this with the clipboard, just testing his aerodynamics, and just go up and whack, and just levels him at 100 yards.
Okay.
Joe Fredericks.
Apparently, sorry.
No, Karen.
Apparently, the longest distance a frisbee has been thrown is 338 meters.
Yeah, so 100 yards is fine.
I stand correct.
Joe Fredericks, assuming the Imperial German Navy was staffed by 40k commissars, no retreat, death for the Emperor, what's the worst they would do in a 1914 mass sortie, High Seas Fleet versus Home Fleet?
Okay, there's an important clarification that needs to be made to this question. Everyone is a 40k commissar, or it just has a sprinkling of political commissars through its ranks? Because those are two very different answers.
Well, to be
I'm
fair,
assuming they have commissars in important locations.
in every single bridge, basically, there's a couple of commissars.
Some ships death ride. Some ships have some unfortunate accidents with enemy shell fire. Because it's
some
not
ships
uncommon,
chaos.
even in 40k, for particularly brain-dead commissars to be removed from service by the forces that they are assigned to.
They could have an accident.
Unfortunately, some might go on shooting sprees.
Yes, but usually by the time they go on shooting sprees, either their lines have broken, or they're about to get domed themselves by a particularly grumpy sergeant.
Yeah.
Going off them being semi more competent ones.
The Catachan are famous for going through a lot of commissars.
To
Yeah, but
be
then if you
fair, they usually let the jungle do the work for them.
So if you want then the opposite rune on, you've got the Mordians who go through commissars at an incredibly high rate. Because the commissars get depressed.
Yeah.
Because dealing with Mordians like, no, that's not what I meant for you to do. No, oh. By the Emperor. Why do you take everything literally?
Ah, yes, the Mordians. And what
Ah,
about
yes, hold that position holds for decades.
also I'm trying to remember the units, the Death Guard of Krieg, yes. Yeah, and the poor commissars attached to them basically spend their time going, oh, good lord, not again.
Death Corps, not Death Guard. Death Guard is very different.
The Death Guard of Kree is very concerning.
The Death Guard would fit in World War One.
Sorry,
They
sorry,
would.
I'm just gonna. Sorry, I do apologise. It's my cousin calls her Kree Army the Death Guard of Kree. I do apologise.
How to face one? How's the face? Two. The problem is Kane, Yarrick, or Gaunt would actually be a net benefit to the Kaiserliche Marine. but there's also others that I have seen in various pieces of media who would either have no effect or a negative impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before anyone else, yes, my cousin's Death Guard of Krieg are an interesting formation to fight. And her command style is suicidal but disturbingly effective. Disturbingly effective. She's even got a hat she wears when commanding them now. She's trying to put a uniform together.
Yes, Doc, but your family looks at the GW rules and says, "We'll take that under advisement."
Yes. Because they don't design rules for large forces as large as we tend to deploy.
This scares me.
It works. And yeah, the quote I would give for my cousin, and this is what she literally said once. She was we were fighting it as an allied force. My Iron Wolves were backing up her Death Guard and were doing a joint attack. At the end of the match, we'd won. She had one trooper left out of her whole force. One. Turned around to me, still in Carragher, saying, "We didn't do enough for the Emperor, did we?" We'd won. She'd lost everything but one of her troops. Not even her commander. It was a single one of her sergeants was left. Yeah.
Your family concerns and frightens me, Doc.
It does. It even gets worse. In the next family match, she's paired with my mum. Lord help us all.
On the one hand, soul-crushing attritional warfare. On the other hand, high-value blitz attacks.
No, on one hand, there's enough Red Angels that if Dante had that many that many angels under his command, he would not have needed to recall the other chapters to try and help out defend the homeworld, and B, would probably be looked at as someone who had managed to resurrect a legion. We'll leave that to one side.
Warhammer 40k, Monsieur.
Yeah. My family has some interesting homebrew rules. YouTube Minecraft watcher.
Just like the Baneblade.
What rare firearm would the panel wish to own? Mine would be a Mauser with both a bolt action and tube storage for ammo. I can't remember the name. Okay.
If I can get ammo for it, I'll take the Heckler & Koch caseless automatic rifle.
Mm-hmm.
The one that has been described as Kraut Space Magic.
Okay. Mainly because my uncle has one, and I really enjoy firing it because it has a really good action and a really good effective range for its size and age. The Pattern 1914 Enfield. It's a good gun. Foxo? The just giggling is scaring, not just me, the Runon, and
Yep,
Dragon,
it's
but the
scaring
whole
me
the
too.
chat.
But technically, it's a small group of largely bespoke rifles, but made by Vickers, the Vickers Elephant rifle, which were chambered in .600 Nitro Express, and were used by counter snipers. Some of the earliest records of them in World War One.
Ah, yes.
This is the big brother to the 50 cal round, as in early Vickers 50 cal machine gun ammunition. The British 50 was a necked down version.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to see if it could break my shoulder.
Probably could, because you probably don't weigh as much as the gun.
I'm just imagining it not breaking Foxo's shoulder, but instead throwing Foxo several yards to the rear.
Oh, I do think it would make Foxo go airborne. I just think part of the injury list she'd have when she was being reviewed in hospital later after firing it would be a broken shoulder.
Just to add it how cool these rifles are. In the United States, they would not be classified as a rifle, but a destructive device.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside grenades and bombs.
Not sure. The P14, pattern 1914 Enfield. That is quite rare. In fact, I think that's very rare. There are lots of Enfields, but there aren't as many pattern 1914 Enfields, especially ones which haven't been adapted by people and are still in their original condition and original form.
And also, Chad, if you want a rare Bren, don't get a British Bren, get a Czech Bren. Because they were a very limited production run, but they're fully built steel, they're brilliant. They're the ones that would become licensed as the Bren.
Mm-hmm. There were produced between 1915 and 1917 about 1.2 million of the pattern 1914 Enfield, but they kind of got changed a lot. They were incredibly popular for being sporterized, for game shooting, etc. So, original ones in their original condition are rare, to say the least.
So, just to clarify what I said. It'll be the ZGB-33 light machine gun, which will become the Bren.
Yep.
Actually, Czech-made ones are incredibly rare now. So if you want a Bren gun...
Interesting, actually, that you mentioned them. Because, as some people might know, I don't tend to like small arms that are under 20mm usually. I prefer larger caliber rounds. But since they are technically still classed as firearms, either a ZB60 or the 15mm baser. They're actually very rare weapons that had very niche uses, but are just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You see them in the Vickers Mark 6C, and you see them in a number of British armoured cars. So, and from what I can tell, there's only like 3,000 odd of them made.
Oh, good lord, Dr. Dan has arrived. We've got questions for you, Dr. Dan. We've got questions for you.
Not sure how many ZB60s actually were, but...
We'll get back to you. We'll finish off these questions and then we'll get back to the ones we've got stalled for you. So, Carrot1151, I'll be in Grimsby tomorrow and was wondering, given its position in Malvern or Humber, what ships have been based out of it in the age of sail? Mostly they'd be convoy ships, so maybe some frigates, but usually things like brigs and small vessels like that. Monsieur, what free would you most want to go next for naval history stuff?
I was actually just going to say, on the topic of weapons grandfathers may have fired, mine apparently got involved in test firing naval artillery, at the gunnery ranges in Woolwich. So possibly a 14-inch gun. I know it's a little bit heavy for everyday carry, but you know.
I did look
shows
into
you
that.
can-
Unfortunately, firearms do not include such large caliber things.
That's an annoying thing, but we'll leave that to one side. Moshaw, what free would you most want to go next for naval history stuff? What free what?
I'm guessing 3 places or sites or something.
Free places, you know, there's a fair number of places. Basically, we've got some plans going through for trips around Europe, trips around America, and trips around the UK. Which I've got to send to Dan, because I think the odds are if it ends up being a trip around the UK, it could end up being me and Dan doing a road trip and others joining us where we end up when they are interested in. Yeah. Because the easy thing for us to do is to just hire a car and put it on both in the name so we could share the driving rather than trying to sort out insurances and put us on each other's cars or those sort of things.
Yeah, probably.
And Bomio Boy, what books would you recommend as general overview of the Type XXI post-daring escorts for the Royal Navy? Start off with Rebuilding the Royal Navy, Warship Designs since 1945 by D.K. Brown and George Moore, and basically work through its source list.
A true historian's answer. Work through the source list.
Yeah, it tends to work quite well. And it's fairly good to start off with on that one.
I may or may not like your work, sir, but your bibliography is excellent.
Yeah, the point I had to make the other day about books I recommend. I don't recommend books I necessarily agree with. I recommend books which I respect the research of.
Yeah.
Now, some
books are good fun to read, and some books are good fun, well sourced.
Yeah. Right then, so, Nights to Go for one for Dr. Dan. So, how likely do you find the idea that what killed Cunningham was a heart attack, as Britain and War magazine suggests?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably. Because he just died in a cab, didn't he? Or something
back at the tag, yeah, cab. I can never remember correctly if he was on his way from the club to the train station or the train station to the club.
Yeah, that sounds like it's probably a fatal arrhythmia due to a heart attack. So, very, very, very quick.
Mm-hmm. Next question. And for Dr. Dan, is death by cuteness overload an actual thing?
Yes. Have you not seen kittens? It's their primary mode of killing whilst they're waiting to get big enough claws.
Okay.
There is a real thing of broken heart syndrome, more seriously, which is better known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Takotsubo is a Japanese octopus pot for hatching octopi.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I went around photographing some of those in one of the museums, because there's a medical existence.
So basically, this is what Foxo puts Dragon at risk of every time she doesn't eat enough.
Proud?
We'll go with yes.
Yeah. See, Foxo, there's a good reason you need to eat. To stop Dragon suffering from broken heart syndrome.
And from somebody having to spell Takotsubo cardiomyopathy.
In the medical notes, and that's just cruelty. Just think of the poor doctor having to type that up.
Like, you're telling me to be cruel. Like,
No, we're telling you to eat. Because you love your dragon.
But what's love without a bit of cruelty?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, nice to in the world of AI, what would the command staff be comprised of? Probably the same people. See, the thing is, people presume that the world is going to stay the same and not get any more complicated, and so AI will therefore be able to reduce the number of staff. But realistically, what has happened in every time we've had one of these evolutions is the command staff has ended up having to increase to deal with the increasing complexity of the world. So you think about it, with AI, you're probably going to need, now your intelligence team are going to need to increase with people who are capable of assessing imagery to tell whether it's fake or real, and with 100% accuracy, not just on gut instinct, 100% accuracy, what's fake and what's true. You're also, whilst you're probably going to have the AI assisting in various things, we all know that AI can be very confidently wrong. So you're still going to need people checking it and working through it. And that's if you get AI working in a command system. Because, let's be honest, if the computers go down, or the power goes down, or the internet and network communications gets jammed, or something like that, and your AI stops working, and you've got no coverage, nothing to take over if it goes down, you're in trouble.
Well, you're going to end up with so much more data coming in that you will need more people to help to synthesize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it will... And I'm not convinced an AI will easily be adaptable to understand an individual commander's preferences, what the scenario is, and how to present the information. Because that's very much a user thing. Whereas the tactics and strategy side, and all of that, which you'll be teaching it, is something else. So, whilst you could create a bespoke program for one commander, the problem is it won't work for the next commander, or the next one, or the next one.
An AC-75 R07, yeah, paperless office. Anyone? Yeah. Anyone here got a paperless office yet?
Definitely not.
No. How many massive IT systems have the NHS been working on to try and create a paperless office over the years?
Look, just as the NHS program for IT managed to spend, I think, 9.3 billion, failed to come up with anything that really worked particularly, forgot to include basic things like email in it. Admittedly, it was in the 90s. This was in the 90s, but this was 8 or 9 billion, and it was sufficiently ghastly that some of the big consultancy groups like KPMG, I can't remember which one it actually was, but one of them like that, actually paid to get out of it. They took the hit of breaking the contract because they could see what a train wreck it was.
Yeah, just remember that program cost more money than was spent on a Type 45 destroyers. This is why when people tell me that the way to fix the NHS is to cut defence spending, I turn around and go, you do realise defence spending basically doesn't even cover the IT projects of the NHS sometimes.
This would be the same military that we should be cutting in favour of the NHS that's been able to order X-rays electronically since the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
which I only started doing... I'm trying to think. I certainly was still having to do paper forms in 2009. And where Queen Elizabeth was sending emails before I was born.
Yep. And Night Zero has just corrected me that it's not AI, it's AL, so it's Azure Lane. What would the command staff be comprised of? Dragon?
Redacted hard.
Well, no, it's worse than that, so it's what command staff.
Yeah, that's what...
It's kind of been shown he doesn't have command staff.
That was my that was my feeling, but I wanted to clarify that before we went with the answer.
I'm just now really scared at the idea of Admiral Cunningham being forced to try and coordinate a load of ship girls.
Well, considering they are literally, I will walk into hell and back again for you, he's probably not that concerned. He's now got an incredibly die-hard, loyal troop force that will do literally anything he asks.
Yes. Look what he did with normal people. I'm not saying I'm scared for the sake of the ship girls. I'm more scared about Admiral Cunningham, especially. Well, there'll be Mrs. Admiral Cunningham who will keep him in line on this, and B, everyone else, because I'm pretty sure this will rapidly degenerate into war crime. Simply on principle. Because, sometimes. Yeah.
All right.
So I was also thinking about AI because I spent part of my journey to the National Archives, reading part of a book about command posts in the drone era. It's quite interesting.
Okay. Joe Fredericks, if you were forced to purchase ships for the Albanian Navy in 2000s, what's the worst but realistic options you could have purchased? Okay. Purchasing Type 45 destroyers is actually a good thing in that scenario because you're purchasing something which is a very good air defense destroyer, but which doesn't have, if you're not fitted with a Mark 41 VLS, etc., or other things like that, which you could do, has no general purpose capability. So it looks great on paper and it's great for air defense, but it can't do anything else, so it's a single-use unit. I'd go for S80 submarine program, the Spanish submarine program, because in the 2000s that's looking looking quite good initially, but let's be honest, there's a reason they have been having as fun time entering service as they have. I think the Isaac Pearl was laid down in 2007 and it was commissioned in 2023, and the next one was laid down in 2009 and won't be commissioned until 2026.
Another option would be the Russians might well sell you the Admiral Kuznetsov, and she's looking really great.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to anyone?
Because it's Albanian.
Yes, but why?
Well, I've already saddled them with a submarine which won't be delivered, which, in a nice way, even if it's laid down, won't be delivered for at least 16 years.
Albania is supposed to be semi-realistic choices, not cruel and unusual punishment.
It isn't realistic. It's the brand new Spanish-built submarine. People are buying the Spanish, LHDs. They're buying Spanish vessels. I could have been cruel and told them to get the Hobarts as well. I said to have the Type 45s. Not that evil. But some would say I'm being actually frankly generous.
And people were buying for Russian aircraft carriers. The Russians did it and the Chinese did it.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Indians did it and the Chinese did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but would the Russians actually sell Kuznetsov is the issue.
For enough Albanian mud, yes.
Yeah.
This is early 2000s Russia. This is the era of gross corruption.
Yeah, this is also the era of we're desperately trying to be a great power again.
Yeah, but they'll use the money to actually build an aircraft carrier that might work.
It's always possible.
I don't think so.
What is the panel's opinion on the French 1777 musket?
It was a musket made in 1777.
It was the one used by the baddies in the Star books.
It's 1777, right?
Yeah.
The musket model. Oh. Is one of the most iconic firearms of all time. a good reason. It's only, the one that allowed the French to kick butt on the land where the Napoleonic was.
They built like 7 million of them, didn't they?
Yep. It was one of the pioneers of uniform caliber throughout regiments
Mm-hmm.
and uniform powder. We also had uniform bayonets and bayonet plugs. It actually has a sight on it, which for a lot of earlier rifles wasn't a standardized thing. It's a musket that they made so many of them during the Grand Army's retreat from their German head counties. They left approximately 750,000 of them behind. And the Germans also used them.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone used them at certain points.
The only people who didn't were the Royal Navy. Because they didn't like getting wet.
Yeah.
And
That is a problem.
and they weren't chromed, so they rusted inside horribly.
Knights to go front. You feel bad for Fleet as he's going to be competing against the Historiophon. It's going to be Monday night on the Historiophon. It's going to be the first night. I doubt it's going to be much of an issue for Fleet. I'm fairly sure the people who traditionally watch him are going to watch him and answer questions. Probably along the lines of, "Are you coming on the Historiophon at any point?" Keep nagging him on that one. Knights to go for one. So, of the 3 surviving 13.5-inch gun battle cruisers, why you put 343mm, I'm not sure. In the nicest way, the Royal Navy didn't call them 343mm battle cruisers. That's people transferring modern numerical designations onto those guns. It's kind of like, if you're talking about the British, use the inches. If you're, especially in this period, if you're talking about the Germans, I tend to use inches as well. But basically, in this period, we're talking usually more about inches than millimeters in large gun calibers, because of how people like to compete with each other.
That's this dirty joke.
Yeah, 96 front. So, if the 3 surviving 13.5-inch gun battlecruisers, what made Tiger a better choice to retain compared to the 2 Lions? I'm going to pass it over to the panel first, and then I'm going to see if they miss anything.
Let's see. It a much more effective armor scheme, just much more heavily built. Which had thicker bulkheads, a lot more of them, and had a lot more bigger room with engines.
Yep.
And more leg space. And the fact that due to the positioning of the turret, she didn't have all the issues Lion had with the midship's mounted turret.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start my answer with the word every and end it with thing.
And I'm going to say, this evening we're going to finish probably about 2200 hours, i.e. 10 o'clock. I know this is very early for Bruships, but that's because this week I'm going to be live for 96 hours. And so I've got things I need to organise, quite literally, for it all. There are slides I need to put that I need to be happy with, and all sorts of things. So it's basically, there's only so many hours in a day, so probably going to finish tonight at 10 o'clock. I do apologise for people expecting a normal, longer one, but it's just a case of I didn't expect to be spending all of last night and much of early hours of this morning repairing a gate. So, yeah.
Oh. Did your sister attempt engineering?
No, the Corgi decided he really wanted to see his papa.
Yes, the Corgi decided that no walls could hold him and proved the world right.
He managed to smash his way through the gate.
Also, while I have the Council of Brits here,
Yep.
what is the feasibility of possibly making a week-ish vacation there in like June, July? Or feasibility, I should ask.
What are you trying to do?
Not be at work?
Yeah, you can find.
There's literally no
You can find
more
plenty of
problem
stuff.
on your end. Yeah.
All I would say is, you could probably deserve, considering the flight over, you probably want us to be more than a week. You probably want to aim for more like 10 days. Because
Yeah,
otherwise you're flying over and then pretty much flying back almost, it's going to feel like. And also it gives you more time to go places when you're here.
Only thing I will say is, if you're doing it in June or July, expect it to cost more than if you were doing it outside of that period.
Yeah. Because that's the
Because-
high season in the UK.
Yeah, it's summer holidays usually.
Well, it's getting to it. June's not too bad.
June's when they well no, because they've already raised prices in June so that they can say afterwards, yes, this is the cheap holiday breaks, and it's like, no, this is just the price it was before you raised prices.
Yeah.
Well, June is when they get the private school kids, and then the plebs they get in July and August.
Well, because they also get college and universities usually in June, because they can finish either early June or what's called May.
This is why I normally take my holidays in September or April. When people are all at school and education.
Yeah.
And Mark
You see-
Harness, you are right. Corgis are the battle mounts of fairies for a reason.
I'm
Would you-
attempting to both potentially meet you on the other side of the equator and also not lose my sanity in the interim period.
Well, you'll need at least one day to go to Norwich,
Yeah.
because I doubt by many powers, if you're in the UK, you will not get dragged to Warhammer World.
Is that in Norwich?
Dragged
The question
to
is-
Warhammer World. It's not a question of
It's also-
dragging her to
Nottingham,
Warhammer
sorry, not
World.
Norwich. Nottingham.
It's getting her away from Warhammer World.
Yeah, not.
My understanding was she was literally flying in, going to Nottingham, and then maybe potentially leaving Nottingham or Norwich. I thought
It is Nottingham. I don't know why it's,
It's Nottingham.
Norwich, but
Yeah,
Runon comes with one suitcase and leaves with two.
one suitcase.
Doing it.
Comes
doing a
with,
draft.
comes with one suitcase and leaves with two. No, comes with one carry-on case, leaves with two suitcases and a carry-on.
2 suitcases that I bought on site.
Well, you could bring them across empty.
To be fair, that
If you're like
those are
me, you
really
bring
big
them as
GW boxes.
You bring them as the big red canvas bags that go into your that can go into the hold, and you bring them across for free. In your carry-on.
The only question is, are you planning on mostly getting metal or plastic crap?
Well, there's not much metal stuff left.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
but
like
you can find a
two
lot.
Dark Angels, some Eldar.
Yeah,
I
but
think
there
Chaos.
is the classic store in Nottingham, not the Warhammer owned store. There's the classic specialist store which has all the old kits in it, which
Yeah, but
still has.
the reason why there's not many metal kits left is because almost all of them have been made plastic now.
Yeah, what I mean is it has the older kits.
Mm.
It's one of the few stores where you can go in where you guarantee find the older stuff still.
Right.
They have
So you-
all the old stock.
I get Runon's looking to save money, yes, but if they are going to the UK for any extended period, they're probably being dragged by at least one of us to Warhammer World, and then subtly convinced to at least get some stuff while there.
The question is, Runon will never leave Warhammer World once she arrives there. That's the thing.
Sorry, you've just gave me the mad impression of just Runon being found hidden in one of the areas and just going, "Hi, if you let me stay here, I'll work on your electrics for you."
I fixed that nagging mechatronics problem you had.
Your blinky lights now work properly.
I mean, that sounds like it would help them. They would probably be happy.
Just Runon goes
Yeah,
full
but-
Skaven mode in Warhammer World.
I don't have any UK certs.
That's okay. You'll just be hiding in the
Joel Fredericks, it's about $2,000.
Yeah, I have noticed that it tends to be cheaper for me to fly to Canada and then get connecting flights on from there at the moment than it is for me to fly direct to America when I'm planning routes out. In fact, my tend to be current port of entry into the United States tends to be Halifax, which turns out to be a very good one to arrive into. Carrot1151. After riding my bike in the amber weather warning and been staying in hotels this week, I've decided a full-size bath is a necessity. To all, what is your hotel must? Well, this is an interesting thing. After recently, I've stayed in an apartment complex rather than a hotel, straight hotel. I've decided my requirement from now on, if I'm doing a long-term stay in place, is I like having the ability to cook my own food. How about you, Dan?
I really like having the. I've been staying in a few places which gave you a coffee machine. That was always good. Rather than having to faff around. Few places let you make tea properly.
Why are you all so mature and grown up?
Go on.
Because I'm old.
Yeah.
Because mine is a sufficiently large wardrobe I can hide in it.
Understandable. Doesn't have to be that big, but understandable.
I mean, I have that at home.
Like, every hotel room nowadays for me is either a walking wardrobe or just a large wardrobe. And if it
Nice.
spooks me, I'll sleep in it.
Depends how long I'm going to be staying there, but honestly, something like a Premier Inn does me pretty well. As long as it's got like basic things of it is warm, it has some form of TV, like and do stuff with. Even then, that's not necessarily that. Necessarily, a bath, what's called bathroom and shower. On that.
That's the thing, is the apartment places in London are actually cheaper than the Premier Inns.
To be fair, the Premier Inn when I stayed last I was in London was pretty cheap actually, because it was not on the outskirts, but normally took you about 20 minutes on the tube to sort of get to the very heart.
Yeah.
So, for me, it depends upon where I'm going and why I'm going there. For what I'm doing right now, it's got to have a kitchenette.
Yeah.
Like that is the requirement, because I'm already going to be spending $100 ish a night on a hotel room. I don't want to be spending even more per day on food. But if I'm just, like, let's say I take another trip up to Hamilton to go see Haida or whatever. Clean, comfortable, has good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That was it. Pudley Bridge was where I was when I was last in London. So, and that was actually quite nice.
I was staying in just off Russell Square last week.
You're between Russell Square and Queen Square.
Yeah, I was staying in that sort of area, and for 2 nights it was £150. And for central London, that was very, very good.
To be fair, in central London, if I want to stay more central than I am, I just stay at my parents'.
Yes, but not all of us have those that have that advantage, Daniel.
Well, what you need to do is you need your great grandmother to buy the house in the 1930s. She has her cousin's husband convert it into flats for cost, because he's doing that to most of North London, it seems, and buying them all up. and then you keep it in the family ever since. So it just needs a little bit of forward preparation. I don't see why other people can't do that.
Dan, be lucky that I know that you're
I
pulling
know.
people's legs,
Yeah,
taking
he does this regularly.
taking the kidney excretions.
Steve Clarke, in Giglio's recent video on the Italian reasons for the war in 1940, he mentions coal supply issues and lack of understanding by the UK. Can you explain the UK's government reasoning for this? Not really. I'd have to A, watch the video, which I have managed to miss because I was doing all sorts of other things on it, and B, there are coal supply issues because in 1940 the UK government is buying up all the coal it can get its hands on because for the UK and for the various other markets because of what's going on, which does probably cause the Italians problems because they are used to a ready external supply as well as their own internal supply.
Well, what it was saying, because the problem was that the British had said that they would supply the French with coal.
Yes.
Because the French coal mining districts were A, where they were expecting there to be fighting, and B, they were going to call up all of their miners because the British mines, I think, were more efficient and better quality coal. And actually, that turned out to be more than they realised, and also lots of British coal miners joined up in the sweep of patriotism, and they forgot to put them on the list of people who weren't allowed to join up. Oops. And then it was, and I think what was happening was this was the Italians talking about the Germans shipping coal through neutral Netherlands and sailing it to Italy. And it's that the British were saying they would blockade, and that's completely legitimate because that is enemy trade and contraband.
Yeah.
So that was what the British were saying they would put a stop to or prevent. And then apparently the Germans were saying, "Oh, we'd supply you by train," which I'm not sure the train network was that good to get that kind of quantity of coal.
Not at that time. Not at that time.
No.
No.
And not with how much coal the Italians needed. So it was a bit of a pickle for the Italians just because essentially you'd lost a large chunk of coal production with people going to war. Simply because, the French pretty much, it sounds like, shut down their coal mines. With the onset of war, and so you suddenly had France needing to import coal when they were previously closer to self-sufficient. Trying to remember where on earth I was reading about all of this and why I cared to actually keep reading about it.
This is usually why it's good to have you here, though, because you do go off and read some random things sometimes. It's useful. Joel Fredericks, effectiveness of nuclear weapons as anti-ship missiles. Direct hit, I hope, is pretty much self-explanatory. They also have the advantage that if they do an indirect hit, they can cause quite a wide area amount of damage, and especially damage in terms of how they affect the flows and waves of the water, which can lead to damage to the ships. But the problem for nuclear weapons and anti-ship missiles is if they don't go off at the right time. If they go off underwater, whilst they can cause issues, they can also reduce their effectiveness quite dramatically as well. So basically, if they go up underwater, they will tend to create an expansion and contraction, okay, which is going to create very interesting waves, and this can cause ships to have their backs broken by the contraction of water, leaving suddenly the hull unsupported, so the keel breaks, etc. It can cause that. But for that to happen, you have to be in a certain area. And one of the interesting things, of course, about reality versus as is portrayed on movies, ships don't sail that close together, even in task group formation. In movies, it's usually about, I I think the density I ran once was about it's 10 times. A task group is 10 times more densely formed in a movie than it is in reality. And yes, for those wondering, there is going to be plenty of questions in the Historiathon this week. Again, I will put this up, so hopefully you can see it.
I mean, in no small part, the issue with the
and as you can see, there is questions in pretty much every session. In every session, there are questions. There are 6 hours of questions in every. There's questions and answers in each one, so that means there is currently scheduled of the 96 hours of Historiathon. 48 hours are scheduled for questions. This is one of the reasons why I don't feel bad about cutting it short today.
Knight, do you accept the challenge?
Do it. I won't be there to limit you, Knight. Rape him.
No, I will finally at the end of this have finished off all Knight's questions.
That's a big challenge, Knight. You're just going to let that one stand?
I was going to say that the problem we have with warfare in pretty much the era of the moving image is we've gone to the era of the empty battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Where stuff is sufficiently spaced apart. You know, it's like the stuff with when they tried shooting Top Gun with realistic ranges. They spent like a few hours trying it, and they were like, "But it's a tiny dot that we can barely see in the distance." Yes, that's who I'm dogfighting with.
Yeah.
What? It's like, yes. It's like, even our short-range missiles have ranges in the miles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is knife fighting range in a fighter jet. You know, or whatever. You know, or you have your whole cast bunched together in a beautiful glob to be machine gunned or blown up by a grenade, so that your cast can all get in shot in something like the Saving Private Ryan, because actually having them spread out with 10 yards between them, or 5 to 10 yards between them, means you can only actually look at 1 or 2 of them at a time.
Yeah.
And you pay to have like 10 actors.
Yeah.
Which is also why they tend not to wear their helmets and things, because you can't see the face properly.
And that you pay money for that face.
Yep.
Which is why The Mandalorian is quite so weird as a program.
Yeah.
YouTube Minecraft Watcher, how useful would a health cruiser like the Atlantis be for protecting modern shipping lanes from pirates and uncrewed attack craft?
I mean,
they'd be useful. Unfortunately, if you have only one, the moment it gets worked out what it is, it's going to become useless because everyone's going to know what they're looking for. But yeah, you could have it's basically you're talking about a Q-ship doctrine, and it did work to a certain extent.
Are we talking about this as a defense or an offense? It's
I think it says for protecting modern shipping lanes from pirates and uncrewed attack craft. So basically, it's protecting the shipping lanes. So it means it's using an offensive weapon defensively. Because it's sailing up and down, going, "Look at me! I'm something you can attack. Aren't I tasty treat? Come close to me, close to me, close to me."
Because that sounds to me more like. If you're protecting modern shipping lanes from pirates and unmanned craft, I'd say you're better off with an armed merchant cruiser.
I would too, but rather than the health cruiser starter.
Or we could just call them East Indiamen.
Yeah, we'll be careful on that one. Joe Fredericks, were the Chinese
sailing in the Indian Ocean?
Joe Fredericks, were the Chinese Navy a complete waste of money during World War II, or did the Republic of China have the right investments prior to 1957? They ended up being a complete waste of money, yes. Honestly, they needed to invest in a lot more submarines to actually be of much use for their scenario. because of what they're operating in.
Wasn't the force largely anti-pirate before the war?
Yeah,
And they were more for making sure piracy doesn't become an issue again,
yeah,
with British help.
yeah. Bowman Boy, what would have happened to it after the war if Project Habakkuk had been 100% completed during December 1942? That becomes a really interesting question. Because if you have a... Let's be honest, that's a large enough ship, it can operate all the aircraft you could ever want from it. And in a world of nuclear warfare, which is what they would be asserting, the idea of having something which could launch strategic bombers from the middle of the ocean would be incredibly attractive. I think the bigger problem would be how many different nations would be trying to replicate it.
I'm trying to work out if they would have attempted to tow it to attack the Japanese home islands.
Why tow it out there? Build another one in Canada. It builds itself out of water.
Yeah. No, I'm also trying to work out if it would be too hot for it, even if they approached from the north. Because suddenly you don't necessarily need to take Iwo Jima and things to have
No,
the base,
because honestly,
you know,
that thing
329.
that thing could probably sit off the north coast of Hokkaido and provide B-29 attacks on anywhere you want.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think wouldn't be very well appreciated by the Japanese.
No.
I think they like that. I mean, you know, we can vouch. It's a lovely island, Hokkaido. We highly recommend it.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Joe,
would be...
That'd be interesting, let's say. Joe Fredericks, if you're asked to rebuild the Russian Black Sea Fleet, what ship would you be commissioning design? For the Black Sea Fleet currently. I'd want a decent Corvette program, an SSK program. If I can get enough of those into service, then I can start pushing the Ukrainians back, and then I need to have some centerpieces to back up, to back them up with destroyer-sized vessels and probably LHDs. But I don't really need to worry about nuclear. It would be more a case of let's start off with corvettes, let's start off with SSKs, and then bring in destroyers and LHDs.
I'm just thinking, you've mentioned previously that the one thing the Russians can make at this point, after they've gone to all their main turbine supplier, is nuclear engines.
Yeah.
And they've got that whole nuclear destroyer design.
Yeah.
Propaganda pieces being going around. Do you try and actually get those built or something?
That would probably be what I'd be looking at for my destroyer, but for my Corvette I could probably go for something diesel powered, which is another option.
The other thing is, would the Turks ever allow a nuclear-powered vessel out into the Med?
Why not?
Have they ever? Let them try? I'm not sure.
I'm seeing
I'm aware there's nothing in the conventions that says you can't put a nuke boat through it.
Yeah.
Don't know. It's just it would be a potential concern that the Turkish might take against it and claim that anything like that is, I don't know, that they could come up with something.
They could try to, but the problem for the Turks is if they do that, then they can face other issues. So they probably don't.
Yeah.
It's very different to go, okay, we're reading into this a whole load of extra things than we're reading into this the plain text telling of what we've agreed. Harold Grundichin, what kind of...
What kind of bass boat are you using that can fit even one Sea Whiz?
A bass boat? I'm not even going to. Harrigrunchen, what kind of book would you like to become a TV series or movie? Mine is Red Storm Rising. That could be interesting, but I do worry how modern media would muck that up. I could just see them trying to deciding to have to rename the Soviets something else because we can't risk offending X, Y, or Z. It would be interesting. I would probably see if I was going for a book. What would I want to see done? Tales of Redwall, perhaps, because that'd be quite fun to put in as a decent TV series. What about Redwall?
They already did that as a TV series.
I said a decent TV series.
One I would actually like to see would be, and you'll recognise this one very quickly, is Castle Federation. But in particular, I'd want Castle Federation. I'd want Castle Federation if Glyn Stewart is involved in the production of it.
And has executive producer privileges to veto any stupid ideas people have.
See, I thought about any of Glenn's series because I'm currently working through Conviction. I would say that's how bored I was sitting in the bottom of a turbine hull, but that disparages Glenn's work, and I don't want to do that. I'm just thankful I had enough bandwidth available to be able to download it in a reasonable time frame.
You mean you're not doing what I do when I go on these long projects, which is download about 15 books a day onto my Kindle, on my phone?
I didn't think I would be that bored.
So in a perfect universe where I could, trust the executives to not think with their pants, I'd like to see the Man of Honor series by Hosinger done, although he had the annoyance to ignore all safety recommendations for COVID and then promptly died of COVID. But I would also see like the Lost Fleet series get
done
made
probably
into a show.
Yeah. Moss Short, do you have a terrible ship design or some kind of crazy kludge that you are convinced would actually end up being really good? Not me personally, but anyone else here?
If it got it working properly, HMS Victorious' rebuild. It didn't catch fire.
Okay. Victoria's rebuild. Yeah, if she didn't catch fire.
Hood's refit.
Yeah. I still think the best rebuild would mean to start off with the Implacables and then work our way back, rather than trying to start from the early units forward. Paul Amos, 8970.
Yeah, also, they had less years on their belt.
Yeah.
4 years on their belt. I don't know why they didn't do that.
I think if you were willing to accept a notable reduction in speed, a Block 2 LCS program could have done quite well.
Potentially.
Or if the Americans had actually had done Stanflex properly.
Yeah. That's always a fun one. Next one from Paul Amos. What's the silliest or totally incorrect comment you received this week? Honestly, don't know. I should have been paying more attention to my comments this week. Basically, they're mostly quite good. This is the thing. This is going to sound terrible, but sometimes the videos come out. I know they're not going to get as wider appeal, and I really should be more sensible with my channel. I'm trying to grow it. I'm trying to get more people to watch it. I'm trying to make it more financially supportive, so I can do more research based off its income. And I should therefore be, looking at the marketability of videos. But sometimes I know the topics I'm doing are topics which I'm going to enjoy, and hopefully quite a lot of my viewership are going to enjoy, but isn't really going to expand the viewership out. Usually, most of the more interesting comments come from people who are one-time commenters than people who are regular commenters. And so I haven't had many in one-time commenters this week, as far as I know, because of the topics. And I have to admit, that's also the extremes on both ends, because also some of the nicest, most kindest and friendliest ones are people who have commented just once. And then on the other end, it's kind of like, it's the thing of the people in the middle are usually very polite and come up with interesting points. And, the people who tend to watch the channel and comment a lot, they tend to fall into that group. But the people who are, maybe it's the only time I've ever seen a comment from them, are usually on either ends of the spectrum of politeness and being interested and enjoying the topic to. I had one not this week, but I think a couple of weeks ago, which basically said, some people should really not do YouTube videos. They should just effing die.
That's a 12-year-old. That's a 12-year-old.
I thought so. That's what went through my mind, and I went, okay. Go off, go be you. You have the time, and I do love it when people was right. I've seen 5 minutes of this video, and it's terrible. I'm going, it's a 2-hour-long video. Surely you should watch at least 20 minutes first before you decide it's a terrible video.
I mean, there was the guy after your talk who felt that buying a sail training ship to the Royal Navy rather than an additional Batch 3 Type 26 was a better investment.
Yeah. And it basically, my view was, if it's the same amount of money, I'd rather have the frigate.
Yeah.
And
I was
because I can understand the attractiveness, I can understand the emotion of going, oh, I want a sail training ship and all these things. And yes, the Royal Navy's done without a sail training ship for how many years? Oh, almost 100 years. I think it's actually might be over 100 years. I don't think they've had a sail training ship since prior to World War One. And the question is, do they need them? No. In fact, they didn't even use sail training ships as sail training ships. They were just using ships how to do it. And it's in a case of, okay, yes, if you really think it's an essential thing, okay, we'll get one. But how much is it going to cost? And if it's the same as a Type 26 or a Type 31 even, I'd rather have the frigate than the sail training ship.
Yeah. Because it's not... Because part of what gives those the status is that you've got the history attached to them. But we don't have that in Britain.
No.
And so the best way to replicate it would be to actually to do what the Swedes have done with the Gothenburg. So rather than it being a national military-funded project, recreate. I mean, I suppose they've done it a few times with.
We have some in the UK. We have some things going around in the UK. Like you don't need to do. Yeah, you don't. The Navy can go on them when they want to go on them. They do, but it's a case of no. It's just no. Okay, Joel Fredericks. Is there any hope for the future of the North Korean Navy? We'll see what happens. It's always in an interesting position. Usually the North Korean Navy is a good example of what happens when people are care more about what something looks like than what it can actually do. And we saw up close and personal quite a few examples of that when we were looking in the various museums maintained by the Japanese Coast Guard to show their honestly not war trophies of. Cow Two-Face. The year is 1914. Scandinavia has been united since the 1860s. How would their naval forces have looked? Would they have been taken seriously? Okay, so if they've been united since the 1860s, they formed up as a unified bloc at the same time as Germany and Italy did, roughly. By 1914, we're dealing with 50 plus years of differential history. How has Russia reacted to the United Scandinavia? How has Germany reacted? How has Britain reacted? How's that affected their force structure? We can't really tell. That's too long a time difference and too many different differences will have cumulatively built up. Let's be honest. The ships in those periods, on average, building every a couple of years to build, and we serving 20 years. You're dealing with 2, possibly 3, probably 4 generations of ships. Actually, once you consider there's also going to probably be the dreadnought era. And let's be honest, there is the point that Sweden could have built. Sweden does have the infrastructure necessary. They could have built a dreadnought. They just needed slightly larger dry docks.
If the Swedes have a significant say in it, they're going to want to retake East Sweden.
Well, I was considering if Scandinavia's been united, then they've somehow managed to get the Finland back as well.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
Or else they're going to be trying.
Yeah.
In which case, Russia is going to be excited, and the Crimean War could be interesting and be continuing, or something like that.
Yeah.
Could be lots of interesting stuff, but I mean, we can make up a very nice alternate history thing of it, but it's not something where you can do the counterfactual of a more academic nature.
Yeah. And
Because
Denmark as well. And Denmark as well. So if you remember, if they've got Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Iceland, and the various islands, and Greenland, they've suddenly got quite a large amount of territory they've got to cover and secure navally.
And they don't have a huge population, but they do have a lot of the iron ore.
Yes.
And they're starting to get technology.
It's interesting, and let's be honest, securing Denmark is going to be their securing the Danish border with the unifying Germany is going to be a priority insertion. They might actually wanting to build a version of the Kiel Canal earlier as a defensive barrier.
Ooh. You get a really wide Kiel Canal.
Yeah.
Oh. That would have implications for the Germans.
Yeah.
But the Danes...
Question is a unified Scandinavia willing to throw down with Prussia and Germany over Schleswig and southern Denmark?
It's going to depend on the politics. It's going to depend on the politics.
And probably who's leading it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see actually the loss in the German-Danish war over Schleswig being the thing that drives them to unify.
Yeah.
Because at that point, Sweden's already in union with Norway, and so if Denmark is in some way broken and asks for help from them, and the price of that is unification, then that could be the thing that drives them. In which case, you've already lost that, and then
You've lost it, but World War One might see them recover it. Because World War One, they might join the Allies to get their territory back, and then Germany really is secured. Because if the Scandinavian bloc will already control one of the entrances into the Baltic, the Royal Navy will not have to go far to go into the Baltic. And that basically means the Germans spend their entire war going, what do we do with the High Seas Fleet?
Well, the Germans suddenly have...
Was Scandinavia not depending on the taste of Finland during the Germans?
In World War One?
Yeah, a chance to throw down with Russia, retake Finland and the Baltics.
No, we said the Finland's already part of them.
They'd have already done that.
They've already got Finland.
Because Russia's had so many low points in that period, they will have taken advantage of one of them.
Probably with British backing. Let's be honest.
At the latest, they'd probably do it in 1905 after Tsushima. The Russians are distracted. And they don't have a fleet.
The two British allies, Scandinavia and Japan, are both smacking the Russian Empire around from either ends. Yeah.
That would suit Britain.
Yeah. Keep them away, or keep them as far away from India.
Yep. And Persia and things. Yeah, that works.
Castaner. Next question. Castaner. I often suggested building a large 100-foot dugout canoe from a tulip tree, Iridium tubulifera. Would be a village project for a month. How many would be needed to crew it? No idea. It's going to depend on the shape of it, how you want to sail it, whether you want to row it, and what kind of speeds you want to achieve. Because you can have something rowed by just a few people, even though it's quite big, but it's going to go quite slowly. Or you can want to turn it into a war canoe, in which case you probably need about 50 to 100 people. You know, there's a lot of differences on what you want to do with it. Mark Harkness, 6106 or 6101. World War II drags on another year, bringing the F-8F Bearcat into active squadron service. Who gets them first, the fleet carriers, or do they start replacing Wildcats on CVs as fast as possible? Fleet carriers. It's always going to be the fleet carriers first, Mark. Anyone want to argue against that?
No, because they're going to be using them to... Sorry.
Yeah, there's not really any reason to argue against it. You're right.
I'm just checking. I don't like to. I don't like to charge on believing I'm right. I like to, check I am.
Well, because they're going to be using them to take out the kamikazes.
Yeah.
And so there are fast climbing replacements, so you can keep fresh fighters in close. I mean, they almost don't work as part of the big blue blanket. That's the weird thing. They actually almost go against that model of having big, chunky fighters that are able to stay up for quite a long time with these fuel reserves that start off up high and can then dive down on anything that's spotted. These are more point defense fighters.
Yes, they can plug the holes in a big blue blanket. When there's a hole, they can rapidly deploy to plug it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They basically take on the role which the Seafire was trying to do at some points. Joe,
I almost have visions of them going on the British ships to replace the Seafires, because all the Seafires are broken, instead of on the American ships, because the Americans are like, that's great, but we have Corsairs and Hellcats.
Yeah, but if it's held on that long, then the British have got something else coming in as well. If it's an extra year, the Americans have the F-8 Bearcat, the British have the what's it called?
Seafire with undercarriage that works?
Yes.
Spiteful.
They have the Spiteful coming in, but they also have the they have a few.
Spiteful and Steam Mozzie. Not Steam Mozzie. Steam Meteor.
Yeah. Joe Fredericks.
I won't want to take.
Okay.
I won't want to be a kamikaze trying to get through a screen and see meteors.
No. Joe Fredericks. The IJN have the greatest air crews known to mankind. No, they had fairly good ones, but I don't think anyone can really claim to be the greatest. Can they win against the USN in a Midway rematch post Santa Cruz? No. The problem they have after Midway is they never again have the air group strength in terms of numbers and the carrier numbers to realistically challenge what the USN is building up for them to have to fight.
Yeah.
And that's their problem. It's a numbers game. You can go, but I have the best pilots in the world. The 5 best pilots in the world. And the person who's going to goes, yes, but I have the 150 second best pilots in the world. Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's 5 or 6 brilliant ones in there. I'm just not sure which they are, because I don't really care enough to know. Moss Shaw, any possibility of a collaboration with the Type 56 channel? And what Milsurp stuff would you wear to match the vibes? Military surplus stuff. Honestly, I don't tend to have military surplus stuff to wear at home. I tend to. There's areas where I wear it, certainly, but it's not something I tend to keep at home. And possibly to Collaboration Type Statistics channel. I'm not sure. I can't remember the last time I watched something of theirs. But if my policy is always the same. If in doubt, if people want to talk history, I will turn up and talk naval history. That's it, basically. I'm friendly.
I don't think I know what the channel is at all, so.
No. I think I've seen something from it. Luftwaffe Frederick. Joel Fredericks. Luftwaffe is given 20 TIE bombers from Star Wars. Can they do a Sea Lion?
Say that? Wait a moment.
They've got 20 TIE bombers from Star Wars. Can they do Sea Lion now?
No. But they can reduce the UK to ash.
They can, but they can't really do Sea Lion because they've still haven't got logistics and the actual infrastructure to be able to do it. But they can bomb Britain to smithereens though. They don't need to do Sea Lion at that point.
Right. So, give me a moment. I need to check something quickly.
That's okay, everyone. If the British built large armoured cruisers, what might they go for? When are we talking about? When?
We did build large armoured cruisers. They're called HMS Invincible and.
If it's early, if it's pre-World War I, look at the Tiger Cub videos. If it's post-World War One, I'm not really sure. I don't think I've done a video on that yet. Well, sure. What current equipment are you totally convinced is horribly overrated or underrated? I don't think drones are overrated or underrated. I do think drones are being marketed as the be-all and end-all of everything, as similar to extent as hypersonics, and I'm fairly certain in a few years there's going to be a shock and horror as they are no longer proving to be the be-all and end of be-all and end-all of everything as the roundabout goes round. Or rather the swings go up and go back the other way. It's the way of the world, and I watch this happen all the time. These systems are useful, they are effective. Do not get me wrong. But calling them a one-size-fits-all solution to every one of your problems is overblowing it massively.
But Doc, replacing every aspect of our warfighting arms with unmanned and autonomous vehicles will surely deliver a great return on our taxpayers' investment and allow us to return more funds to them come tax time.
Yeah. Counterface, with hindsight being 2020, was the development of battlecruisers worth it? In the period they were developed, they probably made sense to an extent. But I'd say the fact is, the time period where they were really useful and really a viable asset was measured in a couple of decades. It's all to do with power to weight rate, power density, and availability. Frank Barwell, a question or request. Something about Admiral Victor Crutchley. No, yeah, I'll do something about it at some point. He's on my list. And final question. Knights Dictator 1. Is the Austro-Hungarian Navy a better example of a fleet in being than Germany? Yes. For dealing with their opponents, they are. But they're against the Italians in a very limited scenario. Right then. With that all being said, it is now past 10 o'clock, and I'm going to go and sort things out. So I'd like to say thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and well, thank you. Take care everyone. And that's the last question. Anything anyone else want to say before we go?
Just thanks for having us as usual.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a wonderful thing to have you all, and have you all backing me up. So thank you.
I was interested to realise that Hans Lodi, who had a German destroyer named for him in World War II, was actually somebody who was shot as a spy in World War One. From what I can tell, because he featured in the MI5 thing.
Oh, that's a cool bit of history.
And he actually seems to have been a really decent bloke.
Mm.
He was a retired or reservist officer in the German Navy who was spying in London, got caught. But it seems like I think possibly the day before he was shot, or the day he was shot, he wrote a thank you letter to the officer commanding the unit that had been guarding him because they'd been so nice.
That's nice of him. All right.
I mean, properly, that's really sweet. And he was actually, I think, being fairly open about his espionage in a sense. It's just he was wearing civilian clothes.
Yeah.
He's one of the ones I'm kind of going, I wouldn't necessarily have. From what I could tell, they didn't have huge amounts. There's a lot more actually on Wikipedia than they had on the MI5 thing. Because I went to the MI5 exhibition at the National Archives today.
Yeah.
Just good. Put about to close.
All right. Then.
But did have various naval things.
That's good.
Yeah.
With that being said,
Cool.
thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Dan. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to see you all hopefully this week during Historython, and well, thank you. Toodles.